Today, we are going to pretend that this is a mentor session. Basically, this is one of our most frequently asked questions ever because we get into it with our mentor students of, oh my gosh, here's all this awesome posing, it has tons of movement, it has tons of engagement, and they're like, but how does it not become blurry? So today, I'm gonna be the mentor student, Cam's gonna explain it, we're gonna basically recreate this for you, and we're gonna be talking all about back button focus, because that's the solution. So what is it, and when would you recommend it, and why?
Yeah, okay, so I'll take the second one first. So imagine we're at this mentor session, and maybe you're having issues with focus, or inconsistency, or client's emotion, any of those things. Of course, my first thought, I'm gonna ask some follow-up questions to make sure it isn't some random hardware issue with the body or the lens or something like that. But immediately when I hear those words, the light's going off in my head, I'm thinking, I think I'm gonna talk about back button focus. In short, back button focus changes the way that autofocus is activated on your camera. So, by default, you get your camera, first day using your camera, what's gonna happen to focus your image, you're gonna half press the shutter button, it'll focus, full press, takes the photo. That's the default on basically all cameras. Back button focus takes that half press, removes it, and puts it on a separate button. And almost always, depending on the camera, that button is on the back of the camera, hence the term back button focus. So with back button focus, the camera's only ever going to attempt to autofocus when that button is pressed. Half pressing the shutter button does nothing.
Oh, okay, I'm getting it.
Good, good, okay. So as to why, there's a couple of reasons. So first, it's much easier to lock focus. So when you're using back button focus and you have a stationary subject, you can focus on that subject by holding the button, and then when you're ready to take the photo, you can let go, reframe to get the exact composition you want, and then press the shutter. And the great thing about this and the difference between back button focus and the default option is that if I were to reframe with a default option, hold down the shutter button to take the photo again, it might refocus that photo away from where I just had locked it and take a out of focus photo.
Yeah,
with back
have it
button
on like
focus,
the background or something.
Exactly, with back button focus, I've locked that now because it's only gonna refocus when I press that button. If I never press that button again, it's never gonna refocus, so I can reframe, take the photo, I know it's gonna be exactly where I left it.
Okay, so like I'd press it, I'd release, and I'd just move along that plane while I reframe.
Yeah, exactly.
Like maybe I'm trying to get them in like the bottom third or something.
For sure.
I see.
Yep. Related, back button focus also just makes overriding the autofocus so much simpler. By default, like in this past example, if you were to want to reframe it, or you're getting some crazy artsy shot or something like that, where you're worried about it refocusing, you would either have to go to the lens and switch to manual focus, or you need to hold down the autofocus lock button, which is programmed separately in your camera, and then you can reframe and take that shot. This is also really handy when it comes to like macro shots. So rather than doing that whole dance to get the focus to the exact spot you want, with back button focus, you can focus, and let's say it's focusing on the wrong prong of the ring, or it's focusing on a leaf instead of the ring, let's say. What you can do is you can stop holding down the back button focus, and instead just physically move your body a little bit closer, a little bit farther away to find that focus, or you can grab the lens and move the lens and refocus manually to get the exact shot that you're looking for.
That's what I was kind of thinking about, like hands are thrown around someone's shoulders, you're trying to get the ring, but you want this unique framing, or not even unique, you want this specifically composed framing versus just where the hands kind of fell. You don't have control over that. I mean, you could guide them through that, but in a lot of times they're already doing a prompt, like their head's resting. Okay, I'm getting convoluted, but basically you're able to make that specifically composed image by using back button focus.
Exactly, and also maybe I'm quickly trying to get that ring shot of your hands instead of you, and rather than having to do this whole thing of trying to lock the photo, get the exact focus right, or like switch the lens, all while presumably having a conversation with them or telling them what I'm doing, what I'm able to do is focus, oh shoot, focus is locked on the wrong thing. That's okay, I'll just let go, twist, twist, there's focus, take the photo, done.
Cool.
It's a lot faster too.
Okay.
Second thing, it makes it so much easier to time those critical shots. So as you're waiting for that critical shot, maybe it's like you're waiting for the speaker to look up from their notes, or the officiant to turn to the couple while they're talking, or maybe you're trying to get reaction shots of parents or wedding party, or just something like that. Rather than having to half hold that shutter button and wait, and wait, and wait, and hopefully you're not getting too tired, and then the shot comes and you finally are able to take it. Rather than doing all that, what you can do is you can focus up, lock that, hold it. And now this finger is relaxed and ready to go. As soon as that moment happens, you can quickly take the shot and not worry about missing it. Because also, what happens if you're sitting there waiting and it's taking too long? Okay, I'm going to relax for a second, so I want to hold it. And then that moment comes, and you're having to now refocus and take that shot in that quick moment. You might miss the shot.
Yeah, and so the difference is the time of that it takes to focus. Like that the camera
and
has
the ease.
Because
rather than having to do a half press and like hold my finger in this awkward place where I'm not pressing too hard and taking these random shots that I'm never going to use, and I have to cull through, and pressing enough to keep it focusing, I'm able to just hold down my thumb.
Because compared to your thumb, holding there is no
gripping.
different.
It's the grip. Just a grip. Yeah. Finally, with back button focus, there's less risk of focus error with moving subjects. And to be clear, it's not just me trying to sell the feature. Less risk of focus error with moving subjects is a line straight from Canon's website explaining the benefits of back button focus. And here's why. For both you and for the camera, focusing and capturing the photo are done by two separate entities. So that means you're in full control of the entire process. And you get to determine when they're working together in concert or when they're working separate and apart from one another. With the default option, that's not an option at all. You're forced to only be focusing and tracking your subjects when the button is half pressed and no other time. And it's easy to imagine a ton of scenarios where that might be an issue. Because let's say I'm using the default option, I'm tracking my subject, I'm taking the photo, but maybe I let go a little bit too much in between each shutter press every time I want to take the photo. Every time I let go, the focus is stopping because it's only going to be engaging the autofocus when it's half pressed. So if I let go too much, it's going to stop. And then as I go to repress and retake that photo, it's only got that split second to try to recapture the subject, refocus, and actually take that shot. As opposed to if I'm using back button focus, I can just hold that button down the entire time, and I know that the entire time I'm tracking, it is trying to find them and focus on them over and over and over again, and it's happening through the press of the shutter button. It's never stopping, even if I let go completely and just keep tracking them. It's focusing before, it's focusing during the shutter press as it's closing, and I let go, and it's going to keep focusing throughout that entire process, rather than having that only focus during that half button press, where if I'm making any sort of simple mistake or just natural thing, it might stop focusing, try to regain focus, and at that point, it might be too late.
Oh, okay, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yes, and so there's also the case where the subject that you're tracking is temporarily obstructed. So that could be someone or something moving in front of your subject, or your subject moving behind someone or something. And either way, if you're doing the default method and you're doing the half shutter press to focus, what's going to happen is any time an obstruction comes between them and the lens, the camera might try to focus on that obstruction. So taking a photo during that obstruction for some reason, or immediately afterwards, there's a good chance that's going to be out of focus. It could just be maybe they're playing with their dog in the park, and the photo is just them playing, but their dog is running, getting the zoomies and running in a circle. Instead of focusing on the couple, that half button press, maybe it gets distracted by the dog, loses focus, or maybe there's falling snow or falling leaves or something like that that's falling in front of them. And every single time that happens, pressing halfway down a shutter is going to cause it to keep trying to search for focus. It's going to catch onto a leaf, lose that focus, ruin the image. If instead you're using back button focus for an instance like that, what's going to happen is if you start to see it getting caught by something else, or you see the obstruction coming, you're like, oh, they're about to run behind a tree, I'm not going to keep holding focus because it might catch the tree and my focus will be ruined. Instead, you can just quickly lift off your thumb, let the obstruction pass, or keep shooting through that obstruction. Another case where it's really useful is maybe you're getting artsy and you decide, I'm going to shoot through this tree to get my couple in a static pose. So less motion, but you're just getting artsy. Instead of halfway holding the shutter, having it get distracted by that object in front, like maybe it keeps catching a leaf, and so you can never actually take the photo because every time you go to take the photo, it refocus on the leaf. Instead, you can hold on the back button, focus, get the shot, and again, just like before, you can reframe, or you can just let go and take the photo, and that obstruction is ignored.
Ooh, okay, I like this a lot. Now, I know in this video I'm being the mentor student,
Yeah.
but I heard from a little birdie that we may or may not have a video where you can literally see me on site using back button focus to photograph a couple who's like coming at me doing all sorts of crazy prompts like hip bumping and running and stuff, and you can see it. You can see all of this in action and see where I'm pressing and like letting go and that kind of thing. So we'll pop that up above, or somebody will pop that up above. Yeah. Okay, so this is amazing. Wow, like how do I do this on my camera though?
Yes. All right. Well, let's jump into the camera and we'll see. All right, so I'm going to show you on the R5, but really this is similar for nearly all of Canon's cameras. So it doesn't get you exactly there, it's going to be really close. So first I'm going to start by going up to the menu, and then we're going to scroll all the way over to the custom functions. So it's going to be all the way over in this orange section here. So this is custom functions. And inside here, we're going to look for customized buttons. We'll scroll over, and there you go, customized buttons, right here, third one down. You open that up, and now here is where you start changing, and here's where all the magic happens. And we're going to focus on two settings. The first is the shutter button at the top here. We're going to open that up, and you can see we've already changed it over. By default, it's set for metering and AF start, but we're going to go over here, and we're going to change it only to metering start. And then we're going to scroll on down to the AF on option, and we're going to make sure that this is set for metering and AF start. And there you go.
Okay, that's it. Now you've got back button focus working for you. From your mentor student, thank you so much for today. If you guys have any questions, drop them down below in the comments. And until next time, bye!